So I'm standing out in my favorite spot to read. I find it really quiet. I'm not sure about the sound, but because we got cars passing by and whatever else. I wanted to share a story. So back in, well, what would I say, 2013. 2013, I was staying in a homeless shelter. If you don't know me personally, I was homeless for a very long time. And I was staying in this homeless shelter called Fort York Shelter. It's at, not Fort York. Fort York is where I went in 2014. Before that, I was at Caledonia and Lawrence. It's called Bethlehem Shelter. It's probably one of the best places I stayed at. The meals are like 5-star meals, and it's like the only shelter in Toronto that you can bring pets to, and it's also unisex. Anyways, it was probably one of the roughest years of my life because for some reason my back went out and it kept getting worse. I think it was because of the beds. The beds are very uncomfortable there, and it got worse. It started off with a little bit of back pain, and then it went from like sciatic nerve pain down my right or my left, like I can't really remember. But it got so bad that I couldn't walk. Like I only could walk like hunched over and like really, really small baby steps. And the rooms there have 4 people in it, and I can't remember all of them, but one guy, his name's Troy, he helped me do physio because I was broke, I'm homeless. So we used to watch YouTube videos, and then he would help me do my exercises. So at the beginning, I used to do like, you know, pulling my knees to my chest, you know, lifting my head off the ground while I was lying on my back, like really, really small exercises. And you may not believe it now, but lifting my knees to my chest was like, it was like, I don't know, like comparable to like jumping, like doing a slam dunk. It was that hard for me. You know, it was like, it was really, really rough, and you would probably understand it if you had some sort of back pain before. Like you don't know how much of your body movements are controlled by your back until your back goes out. I mean, like showering was like traumatic experience. I would sit on the floor, wash myself off, and just to stand back up to get out of the shower, it would take me like 20 to 25 minutes if I didn't have someone helping me. And remember, all this was done in a homeless shelter, so it was like, you know, all kinds of feelings of being alone, feelings of being helpless, feelings of being just like being useless. That was the best way I could put it. I felt like there was no purpose in me living. And this moment in my life really made me struggle with belief. You know, I constantly heard people say, man, you got to believe in yourself. And it was like empty. It was very, very empty words, like believe in yourself. Really, what does that mean? So I started reading about belief, and I thought to myself, who believes the most? And right away, religion and country. People who believe in their country and people who believe in religion. So I started picking up all these books about God. And I figured if I could find out why people believe in God a lot, then I could transfer that belief into myself. So I started, that's the whole purpose of this video. I wanted to share with you some books that I was reading. So the first one the first book I picked up was John Bradshaw's book. It looks old because it is pretty old. It's all my books I grabbed. See, like here, I don't even know whose writing that is. Most of my books I grabbed whenever the Toronto Reference Library had like book sales. I would grab these books for like $1 or $2. But anyways, John Bradshaw was this recovering alcoholic from a long time ago, and I don't know exactly when. I think in the 80s he wrestled with the alcohol and whatnot, and he wrote a series of books, and this one is Reclaiming the Child Within. So I started reading that, and it showed me, it talked a lot about the things that I was missing, because my childhood was pretty traumatic. I went from like baby to man. I didn't really enjoy the things that a child would experience, so I didn't get to dive into that realm of imagination and belief. Because, you know, as a child, when you believe about, like you believe in Santa Claus, you believe in the Easter Bunny, like there's really no limits to what your belief is. And that's the part I skipped. I didn't get that chance to believe. Like my life got serious right from jump. Like I had to deal with facts. I had to deal with like a really rough neighborhood in a really rough home. Mistakes were punished to the to the extreme of the imagination. Like one time I saw this guy, I think I was about, I don't know, like 5 or 6 years old, and I saw this guy get beaten unmercifully, maybe over some sort of drug debt, but at that time my mind doesn't really capture drug debt. And when they were beating him, they were like, "You Trinidadian fuckhead," and all that. So I was so scared to tell people I was Trini because I thought that's what he was getting beaten for. This was my mind frame at 5 years old. So you can imagine, like, you can imagine what I'm speaking about when I say that I didn't have a chance to like be silly and enjoy my imagination and enjoy the extent of belief. So I started reading John Bradshaw's book, and it gave me permission to feel the way I was feeling. So from there, I started exploring the power of belief and started thinking to myself, maybe I'm not trapped in this bubble of homelessness and desperation and, you know, without, I got a helicopter flying over, like it usually is quiet. But I didn't get a chance to explore, you know, the powers of the imagination. And if you don't do that, if you don't keep it, not only as a child, but if you don't explore it throughout your whole life, you're going to miss out on that belief system that I'm tapping into right now. So when I was homeless, I was really like, my world was very concrete. I thought that maybe the best thing that would happen to me is that I'll get like maybe a crummy room on Jane Street or a crummy room on Western Road in Lawrence, which that happened to be my first apartment. When I came out of homelessness, I lived in this room and at Western Road in Lawrence, where it was just massively horrible. But just my belief system to think that I could come out of homelessness and eventually pay my own rent, that required a lot. So anyways, moving on to the next book I picked up was, and remember, these books I picked up, another one at the library for like, I think $1 or $2. So anyways, this is The God Part of the Brain. And Matthew talks about, Matthew Alper is the author. Matthew talks about, he believes that the idea of God is not taught to us. It's already in our head. Like our brain is designed to believe in something bigger than us. Now, when I was younger, family members would bring me to different churches. It was kind of like, I don't know how you would say it, like a babysitter. You know, like we would all get rounded up and go to this woman's house. We used to call her Granny. Why couldn't I remember that? We used to call her Granny. And it was all these kids from the neighborhood. We would go to Granny's house and she would bring us to church. Now, when people would pray, I didn't think they were praying to like God or whatever. I thought they were just praying for goodness. You know, like pray that we had a meal today, pray that everyone's, you know, in church, pray that, you know, that tomorrow nothing bad happens. We're just praying for goodness. To who? I wasn't quite sure. Now, it sounds like I'm getting into a God rant. I'm not getting to a God rant. I'm getting to a belief rant. So when I started reading Matthew's book about the God part of the brain, that also opened up another part in me where I was thinking that in order for me to believe, I have to be aware that not only is there something bigger than me, but that I could be bigger than who I am right now. Remember, when I was reading this book, I was reading it, I was at the apartment at Western Road in Lawrence. I don't know if it's still around. I might go down there and do a video just to show you to capture the actual I'm going to use the word essence of the place, but it was just horrible. Like, I was in a basement apartment. There was a couple girls tricking upstairs. So if you don't know what tricking is, they're escorts. All right, a couple girls upstairs are escorts. Their clients would come in and they would sleep with them there. Our microwave always had cockroaches in it. So when you opened up the microwave to warm up your food, you would have to like sweep out the cockroaches and then tip the microwave and shake out the back. Because the microwave, I don't know if roaches like the heat, so but there used to be nests of them in there, right? And yes, we did buy a new microwave, and yes, they would come right in. Like, the place was infested. That's how come I highly doubt that it's still around now. It was kind of like we're being abused. We were poor. We were you know, on the line of who society cares about. So we're being used, we're paying $400 each room to live like dogs. So anyways, the God part of the brain, that book allowed me to see that not only is there something bigger than I, but I could be bigger than who I was at that day. And at that time, when I was reading the book, I think I had work boots, 2 pairs of pants, a couple of pairs of shirt, and a few briefs. And the reason why I only had these stuff is because being homeless for a long time kind of conditioned me to always be light, like have all my stuff that I could just put in a duffel bag and keep it moving. Because you never knew when there would be a time where someone would be like, yo, you gotta go. So I just put all my stuff in and just go and you know, disappear. If you're homeless, it doesn't really make sense to have like suitcases upon suitcases, especially if you go to if you go to a shelter on a cold night, it's usually packed up. So if you have a whole bunch of shit, like, it just makes everything harder, because the shelter will try to give you a place to stay, but if they're giving you a little corner, a cot, and you have like 4 or 5 pieces of luggage, it's an awkward moment what doesn't need to be awkward. Now, one of the last books I'm going to talk about, and hopefully you pick them up. You pick them up and read a little bit about belief and God, and touch into people's belief in God, because I believe that's the strongest belief that people can have. Like, I remember there's anyways, I don't want to start drifting off, because I'm really bad at that. I can make other videos. So the last book I have is called The Origin of Satan. I just got this book a little while ago, and I think it's the best out of all of them, because in order for you to believe in something good, you have to believe in something bad, right? So with me, even though my belief in myself was growing bigger, so let's just say that's the God part, the good part, I'm going to be bigger than I actually am, there was a bad part. And the bad part for me, the Satan in my life, was alcohol. If I start drinking, things would happen, like things that seemed to be good. So women would come into my life, party, good times, all this stuff of supposed friends would come into my life, but I would fall down the food chain, meaning that I would burn out all my money, I would end up homeless again, I have to crawl back out of that hole, I would feel like shit, I would think like shit, I would not be aware of what's happening, I would not be aware of what's happening around me, because I would live, breathe, and think for alcohol. And that was the Satan in my life. So in order for me to keep my belief system growing and growing, I had to be aware that there was a Satan standing like right here at all times. So, and like I said, in my life, the Satan was alcohol. So there's liquor stores everywhere, there's bars everywhere, and I had to be aware that just a sip of booze will pull me back to, you know, homelessness and desperation and just people looking at you like a piece of shit. So the reason why I'm doing this video is if you're one of those people who are struggling with belief, and I believe that you are, because every time I talk to people about my life, they're always like, Kel, like, how did you get out of homelessness? Like, how did you believe in yourself to pull yourself not only out of homelessness, but like, my life is pretty good now. Like, how did I go from that to you know, how I live now? So I live by myself. You know, I'm a student. I invest money in a couple different things. I don't want to get into that part I don't want to get into that part of my life now. I'll talk about it another time. But people always talk about, like, what was the first steps? And every time I say believe in yourself, I felt like I was gypping them. I felt like I was ripping them off, because it's bigger than belief. It's God belief. It's a monstrous belief. You can't just be like, oh man, I believe in myself, because that shit runs out really quick. It's like when someone talks about motivation. Motivation can only last a certain amount of time, and then discipline kicks in. So you can be motivated about, I don't know, with school. You can be motivated about becoming a doctor or a lawyer. But that motivation, if you're honest with yourself, stops in about a month. And then discipline has to come in. Then there's a part in your mind that you're disciplined. You believe in something that is not there. That's what discipline is. You're working hard towards something that only you can see. That is discipline. You know, when you see a track star running I was just over at U of T and I saw the track and field athletes running, and I thought to myself, how boring is it to train? How boring is it just to run in circles on your own, with no one around you, no cheering, no clapping, no person saying that it's great work. You're just running. That's discipline. That is seeing something that only you can see in your mind. And for you to do that, you have to have God type of belief. So I encourage you to go out there, read about how strong belief can be. Like I said in the beginning, God kind of belief. People who fight for their country, like that has some sort of beliefs. The belief that their country is so great that they will go out and risk their life and limb for it. That is how you have to feel about your own life. You have to feel like I'm going to do everything possible for me to achieve in life because I'm worth it. I'm not worth it like for now or worth it later on today, but I'm worth it, period. Like forever. I gotta get up and I gotta do things when I don't want to do it. I gotta jump out of bed when I don't want to do it. I gotta smile, I gotta think, I gotta push myself when I don't want to do it. And when you have that kind of God type of belief, I guarantee you'll move faster and towards your goals in life. I'm Kelly. Thanks for watching.